Honestly, Stosh, you know what's like the drinking is not the issue. To me, it's like right now is where I would grab the bowl of pretzels or the bowl of Cheez-Its.
The nachos.
You know what I mean? Like
nice.
It's so hard right now. Like I'm pivoting into like a diet and trying to lose a little bit of weight. And it's that like witching hour right before bed where I'm
Right?
so used to just getting a bowl.
Like, I could use something to eat. Let me eat a whole tub of ice cream.
Well, you know what I've been into is Cheez-Its lately. They have these Cheez-Its that are like, they're cheesier Cheez-Its. So they have like the Doritos powder on the Cheez-Its and they're so good. So that's what's torturing me. The beer doesn't bother me.
That's what you got to get up in the high peaks and stuff like that. You got to get some cheesier Cheez-Its and just
I know.
load
I don't
yourself.
feel guilty when I'm hiking. I can bring that food along, but not tonight.
I'll do Mike's signature trick here. Ready? Here it goes. That's Mike's signature.
Oh, yes. I forgot to do that with my awestruck. Sorry. He does that. You know, you do that really good. Every time that I hear that, I'm just like, man, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I just put it right under the microphone and it goes.
I'm jealous.
Broadcasting from the Woodpeckers studio in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the
Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains
podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and
terrible podcasting
in the White Mountains of New Hampshire
and the horrible state of New York.
Now, here are your hosts, Mike and Stomp.
And somebody that you probably don't even know named Stosh.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get cozy. There we go.
Just get cozy, man. It doesn't matter. I mean, is this your first podcast, guys?
First time.
Yes, it is.
First time on the receiving end, basically. That sounds horrible, but
I don't have to do any work this time? Is that what's going on?
you do not have to do any
Beautiful.
work.
Okay.
This is a dream come true.
Come on, no way. Nice. So, guys, I got a big question. You know, I ask a lot of people this, and you know, my wife and I are planning trips later on. We always like to go on some crazy trips. We're planning to go on to the Grand Tetons and maybe Yellowstone and stuff. If you guys had one place to go to, like in the world for free, anywhere, what would be your first spot?
All right, I'll go first because Stomp is dithering around, shooing Daphne away. So I would say, you know, I thought about this a bunch. So like, definitely some of the national parks in the U.S. are of interest to me, but I think I would probably say like the high huts in Europe, like that section between Italy and Switzerland. Doing like a sort of a high hut tour there, and maybe even trying to combine that with like doing some hiking and then maybe seeing one of the grand bicycle tours in Europe. So that would probably be my top of my list. And then in second place would be like the trek to base camp in Nepal.
Oh, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, the glacier stuff is absolutely. Switzerland looks fantastic and stuff like that. Anything in Italy, the Dolomites and stuff.
Exactly. Yep.
Nice. Stomp.
Yeah, I would probably revisit some of the tracks I laid in Central Europe back in the day. Like Austria blew my mind, Germany, northern Italy. I was like, the mountainous regions of these areas are so incredible. I would probably just do a redo and check it out again. As an older man, it's like I had a goal of getting down to the Greek Isles when I had the opportunity to travel in Europe, and I skipped a whole bunch of stuff because I was just a kid. I was like, I just gotta get down to the Greek beaches and whatever else. So I had a different mindset back then, but I would slow it down and hit those mountains again.
Nice.
Some amazing stuff in Europe for sure.
Yeah, and I've got my my daughter graduates college next year or 2 years from now, a year and a half. And one of the things I may offer up to her is like a dad-daughter trip to see if she wants to do something along those lines. So,
Yeah.
it's just a lame excuse for me to go hiking, basically.
Exactly. So, like, what about like any places in North America on top of your list? Like, we have Glacier National Park and Northern Cascades are sort of up there.
Yeah, my friend Tom is organized. He's putting in for a permit for Yosemite for us, so I may be
nice.
doing that in September. But the other thing that really interests me, and again, I don't know if it's realistic with the snowpack this year or whatever, but the John Muir Trail, I keep hearing a lot of good things about that. So that would be something I'd be interested in.
Nice.
Yeah, Mrs. Stomp and I are talking about doing a road trip and hitting the desert. The desert out west is just absolutely amazing. You know, Joshua Tree, Arizona, New Mexico. That would be our first pick for sure if we had the opportunity.
Yeah, I was just out in Utah, April, and it was mind blowing. Just seriously mind blowing the differences of mountainous region and then desert, but also just the grand. I'm both blown away by the Grand Staircase Escalante. Like that impressed me more than Zion, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Just the stuff. So what about just to like go on simple vacation, like maybe a beach visit or something like that, or would you just keep going hiking?
So I'm a big fan of the Caribbean. So I've been a lot of different places. I've been to the Bahamas. I've been to Grand Cayman. I've been to Aruba. I've been to Bermuda, Jamaica. I like that region. I think for me, I am interested in maybe checking out something more in the Western Caribbean, like St. Martin or Turks and Caicos or something like that. I think there's something to be said for, there's a balance with my marriage too, because Mrs. Mike likes to sort of chill on the beach. So for me, I don't really mind doing that type of trip as long as I'm in the beach and I can go snorkeling and be in the water like all day. So for me, the Caribbean can't be beat for that.
Jamaica, man. I've been there. Jamaica's fantastic.
Jamaica's interesting. I remember going there the first time, and it was on a cruise, so we were only there for like a day. And it is a little bit of a sort of a tourist trap where they like, there's a guy that I told my kids, I was like, don't take anything from anybody, because I'd kind of known what the deal is. But they have this thing where they'll give you like a free trinket, and they'll say like, oh, yeah, have it for your daughter. I think my daughter was 12 at the time, and they're like, oh, you can have it for your wife. And I'm like, it's not my wife, it's my daughter. Like, she's 12. But they're trying to give her like a rock that's painted or whatever. And the scam is basically that they'll give you the rock and they'll say it's for free. And then somebody else will pop out of nowhere and just be like, oh, that's, he's worked hard for that. You should pay money for that because it's really hard. So they try to get you to take it. And I told the girls, I was like, just don't take anything. And it was a little bit funny that they were so aggressive, and you kind of had to like be a little mean to them back to get them to go find somebody that was not going to be mean to them. But Jamaica's interesting.
Yeah, agree.
Mike, I think you were the inspiration for Kokomo, weren't you? The Beach Boys?
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Stomp, what about you?
I don't have any grand ambitions to see any international beaches or anything like that. But if we had the opportunity, it's sort of funny living up in the mountains. The one thing that Mrs. Stomp and I miss are the beaches. Our favorite beach in the world is Crane Beach in Ipswich, Massachusetts. And, we miss that dearly. And even just to get the salty air in your nostrils is awesome. But, she's done a fair share of traveling, but I really have no desire to hit the beaches. The local ones up here are pretty cool. And I've had a couple up in Maine, actually, which are really nice as well.
Yeah, but the water's freezing, man.
It is, but it's like I was surfing, so I had a nice wetsuit on, so that's a whole different ballgame. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't get super warm up here in the summers.
Yeah, and Mike, when I went down to Jamaica, I actually you probably went to Montego Bay, correct?
I can't remember. I think we went to wherever the cruise ships go into. So I can't specifically remember what port that was.
Yeah, we went to Negril, which on the opposite side. So it was like less touristy, but it was more of like selling you weed all the time and stuff like that. And we're like, no, we're good. And but it was fantastic. We got to go into the middle of the cities and stuff like that and see like, unfortunately the real poverty areas. And, that made me realize how much we have up here. And I'm just like, man, I'm living in a house that has 3 bedrooms, and these people have like 4 kids and they're living in 1-bedroom house, making stuff off of a grill outside.
Yeah. And you know what the thing about Jamaica too is I remember going there, and they do have mountains there. They have they're called the Blue Mountains, and you can hike them. And I think the peak is like 7,500 feet, so it's pretty high up. But I just didn't have the time to do it. But that would be really cool, I think, to just sort of go there and try to take a day to go hiking in those mountains.
7,500 feet. Wow.
Yeah, right?
Damn.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, from sea level.
You don't think like that.
That's
You
crazy.
don't think of Jamaica as being that sort of that much elevation, but it's got they're called the Blue Mountains, and the summit is 7,400 feet.
Should be renamed the Green Mountains because it's all like mostly 3/4 of the way up is just weed. It's crazy.
True.
I looked into that, and you got to get kind of like a guide to go take you up there, like a Jamaican guide. And I'm just like, these guys like can do all that crap on the side and hike up a 7,500 foot mountain. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, it is interesting. But yeah, I would definitely get a guide and go up there and check it out.
Yeah, 7,500 feet. So you guys you do, of course, the Slasher podcast. If you guys don't already know, this is Mike and Stomp from Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. They had some crazy stuff that they talk about a lot. Is pop culture stuff. How do you guys, I need to know, how do you guys watch all these TV shows? I have no time to watch all these goddamn TV shows, and you guys freaking binge on this stuff.
Well, yeah, me probably more so than Mike, but well, maybe not. But Mrs. Stomp and I are just like huge movie nuts, and that's all we do. Like if we have downtime, that's what we do. So yeah, we make time for it.
How do you do it, Mike?
Yeah, and I'm mostly I just plug I'm into one series at a time. I do love I go from Netflix to Amazon to HBO Max, and I typically will focus on one series at a time. Right now, I've been binging on Carnival Row, which is a great sort of steampunk series on Amazon. And usually, what ends up happening is I'll go in at 8:00, I'll lay down, so I get up super early, and then from 8:00 until 9:15 or 9:30, I'll watch something, and then I go to bed. So I got an hour and a half. And then on the weekend, sometimes, depending on what's going on, I knock off a TV show for 3 or 4 hours. I'll just binge watch something. But yeah, I mostly like fantasy stuff. I like, like I said, Carnival Row is one that I've recently been watching. And then a lot of times me and Stomp will just text back and forth, and he'll say oh, you got to check this series out. And then I'll check it out, or I'll send him something.
Yeah. Oh, no. My wife and I have no time to watch something that's will get your interest. So we watch horrible stuff like Bar Rescue and Ink Masters. It's horrible.
That's hilarious.
It's horrible. Trust me.
Have you ever seen the episode for the Dutch Treat in Franconia? I was just there recently. Franconia is the town just north of Franconia Notch, and I heard that was revamped.
For Bar Rescue?
Yeah, I think so.
No way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. You might want to check it out. Dutch Treat it's like a notorious sort of I don't want to say dive bar. It's just like a cool little bar up in Franconia, but it doesn't quite fit into the vibe of that whole town. But and then when I was in there, my comment to my friend was, I don't think they made any changes.
Really?
So who knows? Interesting stuff.
I seriously don't know how you guys do it. It's just so crazy that you guys can do that. And plus, it all depends, of course, on your time of day and also the hiking, weather. Because if it's rainy and 40 degrees, I won't go outside. I'm seriously not gonna do that crap because it's just hypothermia weather. I can't take that. And with you guys, it's even worse up in New Hampshire. I don't know how people can hike when it's it's going to be 40 degrees and rainy. Let's go hike.
Yeah, this coming up the next month and a half, 2 months or so is kind of tricky, but I try to just stay south. I stay in the lower elevations because you will get a quicker snow melt. We have these ranges in the Lakes region called the Belknaps and the Ossipes that do tend to melt a little bit. I think we've probably got another couple of weeks though of true winter condition hiking up in the north that we'll get away with because we do have a decent snowpack right now, but it'll melt pretty quickly. We'll have a few days where we'll get up to 70, 80 degrees for sure, but I think mostly the game right now in the whites anyway is to stay south.
Yeah.
We're getting peppered with more snow. We're getting like another 12 to 18 inches of snow over the next few days.
Really?
Up north here. Yeah. So winter will be prolonged, and the ski season is going to be fantastic for spring skiing. No doubt about it. Snowmobile trails are starting to close down. But yeah, winter's just getting started now up here. It's so bizarre. But Mike's right. It doesn't last long. It melts. And, a lot of trails at the moment, you're starting to see that foundational ice layer underneath. So this is when people need spikes the most and, traction. Daphne, you're driving me nuts. Oh, God.
Executive producer.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh, my God. She looks at me. She's so pissed, too. It's like, what? What'd I do?
You might hear my, I don't even know, my executive producers as well, Dahlia and Dexter, just barking nice away names. Yeah, Dahlia was after a death metal band that I listened to, the Black Dahlia Murder, and of course the Black Dahlia Murder. And Dexter is of course the TV show.
Oh yeah, that's great
because he's a psycho. But so Stomp, recently the last couple days I've been doing my WFR, my Wilderness First Aid course. Man, that's fun. That's fun stuff to learn.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I have mine as well. It was a great experience. Tell me a little bit about it. Was it all hands on? I got mine through Solo, which is a school up here in North Conway, and they came out and taught one of the teams I'm on, and it was a great experience. Like really rudimentary, fun, foundational stuff to know when you're out there.
Yeah, Solo was pretty cool. We did our Wilderness First Aid with them like 5 years ago. It was really cool. This year it was NASAR. I think it's called North American. Yeah. They were really cool. A lot of hands-on stuff. The cool thing, of course, is, like massive bleeding, impalement, stuff like that. Also like the basics, EpiPen use and stuff like that. But the last, kind of thing we did was, what was it? Like massive, plan of attacks when, like a mass casualty happens. That was definitely fun.
Interesting.
Yeah, definitely looking at, different people, like, okay, sorry to say that, but, this person is dead. Let's go on to the next person who might be alive. Let's do CPR on her and get that person alive and stuff. Really different stuff.
Which is something you wouldn't really necessarily see in an austere, like mountainous environment, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is interesting. So it was more of like a mountainous, austere, and like urban training that you experienced?
Correct. Being located in the Catskills, we have situations of massive flooding. Massive flooding really happens bad here because, once the hurricanes like dissipate, they come up usually and hit our region and then just flow off the coast. So, we've had some massive floods up here. So, I mean, that's kind of helpful for us. And, I think it's just a scenario that we haven't gone over quite enough. And that's why we went over it a little bit, but everything else was fantastic. It's just, how to stitch up someone who gets, like a stick in their leg, how to, support it to where it won't have massive bleeding or stuff like that. Or you can walk them out or something like that, Definitely interesting stuff.
Oh, it is. If you don't mind, I had an incident just this last weekend, guiding on the snowmobiles. Honestly, it's been super Q word up here for search and rescue. So we haven't had any activity on our western side of New Hampshire since late November, and there's been nothing. But anyway, though, these skills that we have are still handy in other situations. I had a crash. This is a weird time of the year because the snow is so sloppy, but I had a crash and somebody was thrown forward off of their snowmobile coming around a left-hand turn, 15 miles an hour. And the person's wrist was completely dislocated. So the hand was visibly 2 inches below the forearm. It was amazing. So no pulse visible. You could see the carpal bones. So, that's where that course really came in handy. Just securing, stabilizing, and then getting them the hell out of there as quick as possible, which is the same concept when you're on trail, responding to a rescue or an injury.
Yep. Yeah. Damn, man. That's crazy. See, that training that training comes in hand once in a great while, but it comes in hand. It could save a life, which is insane.
Yeah, for sure. We've had a couple deaths up here actually over the last week and a half or two. It's such a shame. But
yeah, those snowmobile accidents are no joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, too many of them, way too many.
Yeah, I'm surprised. That's crazy because we have one of those. Do you guys have like kind of like long distance snowmobile trails that like go hundreds and hundreds of miles?
Yep, top to bottom, all the way to Canada, straight down to Mass. I mean, or into Vermont or Maine. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, same here. And I've seen those trails being, they go over roads and stuff like that. And it's just, it's crazy that I don't hear that much craziness, like accidents and stuff happen, when I'm very surprised.
Are you tapped into the right, websites or like conservation? Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah. Cause here Fish and Game covers all the, anything that happens in the wilderness and the waterways. So they cover it all, whether it's skiing injuries or hiking accidents or, illegal poaching, whatever. It's all covered by them.
I'll have to look that up. Definitely. So Mike, I hear you're following your search and rescue podcast. I hear you're a good TikTok kind of guy.
I do have a big TikTok account actually right now that it's blowing up a little bit.
That's awesome.
I got into it during COVID. The kids were into it, and I do find it interesting. But what blew me up is I did a video of there's a plane crash on Mount Success, which is up in New Hampshire, right, like by Berlin and Success Pond Road. It was a plane crash from 1957 that's in place just south of the summit of Mount Success, which is right off the Appalachian Trail. So a lot of thru hikers will take it's like maybe a quarter mile off of the AT as you get up into Grafton Notch. And I did a video of that on my TikTok account, which blew up. It got like, I don't know, like 1 million views or 500,000 views or something like that. And then, I do a little bit of hiking. It's all hiking content for me is what I do. So I follow hiking content on TikTok and, every once in a while I'll get on some weird algorithm or whatever, but for the most part, it's a good time suck. But I do have that rule, like when I go to bed at 8:00 at night, like all devices go away and I just watch TV. So,
yeah. Well, I recently joined this within the last month. And I've learned from your podcast that you can find some good stuff about the area, the Catskills and New Hampshire and stuff with TikTok, of course, Facebook and Instagram and stuff. But I found this one woman who was hiking Hawkett Mountain in the Catskills. Now, this is a bushwhack. And her content was like she got here and the trail like head area had no trail like diagram of it. It had no showing of the trail. Well, it's a bushwhack. So, of course, she didn't do her research, and then she got lost. She sort of said she got lost in the dark, but she found her way back, which is good. So, starting the hike at 3 p.m., not knowing anything about the hike, and then not knowing that it's bushwhack, kind of leads to. And then, of course, she said she followed all trails, which is my favorite excuse ever. But I responded. I just responded. I was just like, well, and just to let you know, every like place posts that as kind of like a bushwhack. And then she did a video on it. It was hilarious. And she said like, yeah, I don't search my hikes that are under 4 miles and I just do them. And I was just like, well, there you go.
Oh, so you made a comment and then she did like a response video?
Yep.
Oh my God. Did you have a heart attack and be like, oh my God, she's talking to me?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was so funny because I was just like, well, like, if you want to get in the 3,500 club, that's what it is. It's 14 bushwhacks. And to be honest, they're herd paths now. It's going to happen.
Right.
It's just like the Adirondacks and probably was like that in the Whites at one time. Owl's Head, it's gonna happen, but there simply is a herd path, and she clearly went off the herd path and then got herself caught in a situation because all trails said to go this way.
Yeah.
But she put a response into that, and it was just hilarious, saying like, I don't look at the stats of hikes under 2 miles or under 4 miles. I don't do this and do that, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, all right, so it's keep an eye on you for future rescues.
Yeah, interesting. But there is definitely on TikTok, like if you
Send
get
it.
into, like you start following some hikers, like there's some really good people on there. And we have our friend Matt, who was on the show one time, and he's big into TikTok. He's done the AT, and he's done the most of the Pacific Crest Trail. And I see him pop up every once in a while. He's got some fun content, but he does a lot of responses when people will talk. And his big thing is all about sort of, hiking is inclusive, and it's something that anybody can do. And he'll push back on people sometimes when they'll say like, oh, you don't have the best gear or whatever. He's always sort of calling people out about that stuff, which is funny.
Good. I'll have to look him up, and I'll have to tag you in my show notes about that.
Sure.
To make you even more famous with like my 3 or 4 followers that have me.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I just thought that was some hilarious stuff. I mean, if you ever like search up the Catskill 3500 Club, there's 14 potential bushwhacks, and some of them can get you into some crazy situations. Of course, if you follow all trails, there'll be like 18 different trails, and some people say it easy, but 3,000 feet of gain in 1.6 miles is not easy. I don't think so. At least I don't think so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that you say that the trails are becoming, herd paths, obvious herd paths. Because I think we talked about this when we had you on the show too, Stosh, that some of these more popular bushwhacks are becoming less and less a bushwhack, just because of the use and social media promoting these trails and just people looking for it. I've noticed over the last several years that a lot of the places I started bushwhacking, which were like just pristine, remote, just no activity whatsoever in terms of foot traffic, are starting to get more, paved in a sense, I guess. And it's pushing people out further and further. It's like we're thankful that we have this 500 highest list of mountains that fit this 200-foot prominence threshold. And that's becoming pretty popular now. And a lot of those 500 are pristine. So you're not going to see that type of wear and tear like you would on some of the more common bushwhacks around here. But that's life, I guess. C'est la vie.
Yeah.
Progress.
And this, of course, I started hiking in the Catskills in like 2017. And to be honest, this was total bushwhacks. This was map and compass, GPS kind of stuff. It was wicked fun. And, awesome. I had such a good time. Now, I'm like you, Stomp. I love the map and compass. I love going into the land of the unknown and finding this massive glacial erratic that probably maybe 2 or 3 people have seen. Yep. Just fascinates me.
That's part of the magic for sure. All those hidden gems out there, and they're everywhere. Whether it be a cliff face that you have to sort of navigate around, or just anything random, some basin, some cascade. It's just awesome.
Yeah. Mike, you're not getting into that yet?
Not yet. Not yet. I've done a little bit of off-trail stuff, and, Stomp. I definitely have some interest in doing some, I'd love to get out to the Captain someday, and I want to get, poking around into the Pemi Wilderness a little bit more. Definitely get up to Hellgate and maybe bushwhack up the slide on West Bond or something like that. So I got some goals, but it's just a matter of time right now.
Correct.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and those are ones that you can't be like, this isn't going to take like 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, no, these are overnights and long. Some of them are overnights, or either that or long day commitment hikes.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of it, though.
Yes, that's true.
It's a different pace. It's so slow. Half a mile could take you so much, 3 times the time as opposed to just walking a trail. It's neat.
No, it's definitely neat when you kind of my wife had to go through some bushwhacks to get to her stuff and to get her to her club patch that she's going for, and to walk zigzagging in between those thick balsams and stuff like that. She was getting a little agitated, saying like, "Are we on the right trail?" I'm just like, "We ain't on a trail, baby."
Yeah, totally. That's neat.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, wow, excellent talk. Welcome to episode 69 of Inside the Line, the Catskills Mountain Podcast. Great to have you here, Mike and Stomp, from the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast in New Hampshire.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks for having us on. It's wicked cool. It's nice being in the guest seat.
That's what you guys are in right now. It looks like it, Stomp. Jesus.
I know. It's been a long
Mike
week.
is sitting there a little little Mike, looks like you're scared. Why are you scared to be on someone's podcast that like gets 300 listeners compared to like 1,200?
I'm anxious. I'm used to being the what am I, Stomp? I'm like the moderator or whatever.
The
So
Socratic method.
I'm like, okay, I got to keep things
You're
moving.
the guy asking the questions, like the Socratic method. Yeah.
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 You're the law teacher that's peppering all the students with the questions.
Whacking down the yards like, hey. Focus.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing, Mike. It feels a little weird, but it's like I feel like we're on vacation. Like, this is nice.
Yeah, but also same time, like you said, you're anxious. You're not running the show, so it's I feel you. I feel you. Like being on your guys' show, I was just like, what the hell am I doing? I'm leaving. I'm out of here. No, it was good. It was good. So also thank you to the sponsor, Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly from Outdoor Chronicles Photography specializes in adventure elopement and adventure couple photography in the Catskills, Adirondack, and White Mountains. Don't forget your pets, though. They are just as important, like the executive producer of Slasher. So, she's also an officiant for getting married and a licensed guide. So don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also check out Camp Catskill of the Catskill Mountains down in Tannersville. They got some cool new binoculars that they have online and in the store. So check them out in Tannersville. You can use those binoculars, check out your favorite peaks, especially at this time during the winter is the best time to check out those peaks to see the different, rock formations and stuff like that of the different levels of geology. I love seeing that stuff. Also check out my guys from the Trailbound Project. Joe and Scott from the Trailbound Project teach everything and anything in hiking and backpacking related. They are a backpacking and hiking related school. It's fantastic stuff, cool, fun stuff that they teach GPS, backpacking, wilderness, overnight camping, fire starting, anything that you want to know about hiking or backpacking, they will teach it. It's awesome. And thank you to our new sponsor who's coming back from back in the old days, Scenic Route Guiding. My friend Sarah Bacon leads Scenic Route Guiding, who does guiding in the Catskills and the Adirondacks. She's a fantastic human. Her girls are some of the best guides that I've met in my life. I love their stuff. So Sarah, thank you for supporting the show. Once again, I got to ask this question, even though I'm going to be disappointed, Mike. What are you having to drink, buddy?
So if you listen to our last show, Stomp and I both stupidly signed up for the Mount Washington road race, and we both got in, and I'm on the wagon, so I'm not going to be drinking tonight. I do have my Slasher water bottle that I'm representing, but Stomp, I did a little foolishly, I weighed myself, so I'm weighing in at 168 right now, so my fighting or running weight is like 150, 155. So I got to drop about 12 pounds. So I'm already down like 2 pounds. So I'm getting there, but
Starving.
No drinking until the end of June for me.
Did you say 168?
I'm 168. Normally I should be walking around at like 155 is usually what I should be at. So I'm a little guy.
Stomp, enter the shame for me. Jesus. Holy crap.
I'm a little guy.
That's hilarious.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
how tall are you,
dude?
Mike?
I'm like how tall are you?
I'm like 5. I say I'm 5'7" and 3/4, but I guess I'm like between 5'7" and 5'8". So.
Oh, all right. I'm like 6, maybe 5'11" as I get older here. But
Stomp, I feel like when I first met you, you were like 165, 170. So
yeah, 165. Yeah, now I'm 200, 205.
Mm-hmm.
But
thank you, Stomp. Jesus, you saved my life right there.
Well, that's a whole other episode because it was a purposeful change in my lifestyle. It's like, my hips or whatever were sort of rough, but I wanted to be stronger for, carrying people and this and that. And I decided to just gain more muscle mass, and Mrs. Stomp was happy. She thought I was so friggin' scrawny for so many years. She loves me bigger. So I'm like, all right, whatever.
That's, that's the same thing. Like Mrs. Mike says that too, that she's like, cause I used to be a little bit bigger, before I got back into running. This is years ago, but she was like, I miss Fat Mike sometimes, because I would just come home from work. I'd make like a blender of margaritas and then get like a thing of nacho chips and then a whole thing of queso, and just crush like the pitcher of margaritas, the bag of chips, and the queso, and like it was so great back then. But at a certain point, like I can't even breathe walking up the stairs, so I had to make a lifestyle change.
Sounds like the beach vacation type of Mike.
Oh yes, exactly. Yeah, Fat Mike. She'd call it Fat Mike. She liked it.
Nice. Stomp, what about you, buddy?
I've got a True North. It's, let's see, brewed on Boston's North Shore. So a little shout out to Boston. I grew up in Lynn, Mass, north of Boston, Lynn, the city of sin. So I saw this and I was like, yeah, I'm going to give that a shot. So this is pretty neat. It's they call it a Midnight Snow Winter Black IPA. So it's almost like a stout meets an IPA, and it's really interesting, pretty tasty. And I'm not so regimented as Mike is on this one, because honestly, I don't want to drop too much weight. I want to sort of stay the same coming through this. But what I've been really focusing on is just really trying to amp up my cardio, which is super key for that race coming up. But I'm not too.
What's it? Go ahead.
Oh, the race itself.
Yeah. What's the stats on that?
7.6 miles. It's the Mount Washington Auto Road, which is paved, fully paved now, if I remember correctly. And it goes to the top of Mount Washington, which is 6,288 feet. It's New England's highest peak. And, I think there's like 1,200 runners that get into a lottery they register and get through the lottery. And, some of the fastest runners, I think the record is 56 minutes. It's a 12% grade on average. So there are some pretty stunning runners, but, for myself, I mean, I'm hoping to come in around like 2:15 or something like that. In my heyday, I pulled off 1:50, which was pretty neat for me. But again, I'm just in it for the fun and see if I could do it again. Just like, good memories. Mike and I think, Mike, I've done it 4 times. Have you done it 4 times?
I think I've done it 6.
4 or 5.
I think I've done it a couple more times than you.
Yeah.
What's the elevation gain on
6
that?
or 7. It's 4,200, I think, total gain. I think something like that, between 4,500. Because you're like, I think the bottom of the auto road, you're probably sitting at 1,800 feet of elevation, I would think, or maybe 2,000. So it's about a little over 4,000 feet of gain.
Pretty hefty.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. That's some crazy stuff. I could not even imagine doing that. So you guys, kudos to you guys.
Yeah.
Especially Stomp for drinking tonight and not caring about it.
Oh yeah. I've been really regimented though in terms of the running. I'm running every second I can. I'm out at lunch doing it. I have an hour or so on a couple days that I'm not doing the PT stuff, and I'm trying to do what I can. And I have yet to shift over to pavement running. I'm just hitting the snowmobile trails and local trails because they're all still sort of groomed by the snowshoes. So it's a nice, easy run up. And, running in snow uphill adds a layer of resistance that a road with sneakers will not provide. So I think it's doing good. I'm noticing the difference every day, which is something I missed with running. It's like every single day you would be able to notice the incremental distance increases and things like that. And I'm starting to see that again, which is really nice because I haven't experienced that for many years now. So it's a cool adventure.
Crazy. You guys are crazy. So what about your previous hikes? What have you been up to?
I just went up Mount Washington this weekend. So I went up the opposite side of the auto road. I took what's a trail which is called the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail. So there is a for the folks in the Catskills, if you're not familiar with the White Mountains, there is a railroad that goes up. It's called the Cog Railroad. So it goes up to the summit in the summer and it goes halfway in the winter season. So you can park there and then catch the Ammonoosuc Ravine Trail, which takes you to one of the AMC huts, which is called Lakes of the Clouds. And then from there, you just take your final push up to the summit of Mount Washington, and then we hiked down the Cog Railroad. So it was an interesting day. The weather reports were a little bit, I was going back and forth a little bit. They had like 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts for the higher summit forecast, so we were like, it could be interesting when we get up there. when we got up to the hut, it was completely white out. You could only see maybe a couple 100 feet. But there was 3 or 4 of us in my group. Then there were 3 solo hikers, and then there was a guide from Redline Guide, Phoebe, and George and Chris, his wife, were there to sort of get set to do the final push. So we all just sort of got together and decided to head up together as one big group. So we did 10 people, and then we got along Crawford Path, maybe about 600 feet below the mountain, and the clouds it went from whiteout to the clouds completely just disappeared. So you had this big summit cone that just appeared right in front of you, which was pretty amazing.
Oh, was that your 48 finish?
No. So I've done the 4,000 footer list in the summer. I'm working on the winter list. I got to 42 peaks this winter, and then I'm going to do the next 6 next winter. So I just decided to do something I wanted to do, which was Mount Washington.
Nice.
Yeah, which was
I thought for some reason, I don't know why, I thought it was your 48 winter finish. So
not yet. No, I have 2 big hikes to do to finish those 6 peaks, and I just decided that I didn't want to do them this winter. So next winter I'll finish up.
Yeah. Stomp, what about you, sir?
Oh, let's see. I've been a bit busy, but just this past weekend I got out with the missus and a few good friends. Jimmy Chaga, who's a well-known celebrity on the Slasher podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Jimmy Chaga.
Chaga.
So we were hemming and hawing and trying to figure out what to do. And I looked at the forecast. I mean, Mike, you scored it big time on that day. That was an epic hike. The pictures were amazing. Sunday was a little different, a little more overcast and a little colder, and a lot of squalls coming through. So we opted to stay within Waterville Valley, which is sort of the southern end of the White Mountain National Forest. It's near Plymouth, Thornton, Campton, for your listeners to know. And Waterville's neat. It's surrounded by several of the 4,000 footers, like the Osceolas, the Tri-Pyramids, and Mount Tecumseh. But we opted for this smaller little place called Scour, and it's basically like a 2.5 mile hike up to this beautiful overlook. And it's maybe a 200-foot cliff. So we hit that and just sort of enjoyed the the challenge of standing in snow squalls for about probably an hour and a half, I would think, waiting for that damn sun to break through, because it was forecast to break. But being in the mountains and being on the sort of the north side of these mountains, the snow just never ends. But we had maybe like a 10-minute break in the squalls that were coming through, and we got some really ghostly images. I had made a comment at one point. It reminded me of, at the Museum of Fine Arts or something like that, those Chinese ink drawings, which are all grayscale. Like everything was colorless, and it was just beautiful in itself. So, not a huge amount of elevation, but it was a beautiful day. And then on the way out, we hit this neat place called Big Pines, which is a short little 0.2 spur off of Livermore Road. And it's an old growth grouping of trees. There were 4 old pines there. They're called Big Pines, and they are just so stunning. Every time I see them, I'm in awe. So it was just a nice time. I think sometimes you gotta, I don't know. As I get older, I like to prioritize my hikes for friendship and just the simple things, shorter hikes. And yeah, it was awesome.
Same. I sit there and people ask me why I haven't finished my winters yet. It's because I go on hikes with all my friends that want to do their winters or want to finish their club list or club hikes, and I'm just like, I'm fine with that. I'm fine to go hiking with some friends just to have some fun.
Yeah, and just get out.
Yeah, I get out in the winter enough as anybody else does. So I've battled crap that people haven't battled before. So I'm just like, I don't need to finish for a patch, but this other weekend I got out to a place in Catskills called North Mountain, just easy little 4 or 5 mile hike. Got see a little plane crash, like you guys get, but we get all over the place. It's freaking wicked. Nice. Didn't have to break trail though, but definitely had to wear snowshoes. We got a good dump of 36 inches down there in Tannersville. The past snowstorm. It was pretty wicked. Pretty wicked stuff.
Wow.
Wow, and I'm looking at this as you're talking about it. So you get there's some ledges there, so you get some nice views on this one, right?
Oh, this was fantastic views of overlooking North-South Lake.
Yeah, it
and
looks
Catterskill High Peak and everything. Stay away from the crowds. That's a good thing because everybody goes into the shorter hikes. You take this long hike from Scott Road. Nobody's there. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it looks nice.
Yeah, you guys got to come here one time. Got to come here.
Oh, I gotta get down there.
Hell yeah. I'd
Awesome.
come out anytime. That'd be great.
Yeah. So Catskill news. I got some stickers available. Jack Walker, my friend from Infinity PCD, printed them off for me. He's great. Get a hold of him if you want to get any like stickers, shirts, t-shirts, stuff like that. Let him know. Jack from Infinity PCD. Check him out. Also, I strongly always encourage volunteering. Got to volunteer to keep our trails looking good and keeping it safe and stuff like that. Any place, 3500 Club. Let's see, Catskill Mountain Club, Catskill Visitor Center. Check them out. I guarantee they have volunteering opportunities up in New Hampshire if you're listening. So look out for any volunteer opportunities in New Hampshire. It's always good to give back to the mountains that you are hiking because they definitely need it, especially at this time with the overuse. And we need people just to help out our local rangers and our local fish and game people. Also, there was a really quick confirmed the wolf DNA that I had passed in the last episode or something like that. I think it was 2 episodes ago. It was actually confirmed that there was a wolf here up like 30 miles away from where I live. So that's some pretty crazy, wicked stuff. So wolf stuff up here in the Catskills.
So is that new for you guys? Is this?
Yeah, definitely.
So migrational changes or something, or what's?
This was the first time in like 36 years or something that a wolf has been confirmed dead, and it was shot by a hunter.
Wow. Oh, so it was dead. So then they tested. So the hunter wasn't sure if it was a wolf. They had to test it to make sure it wasn't like a mix or something.
Yep. Yeah, they thought it might have been kind of like a hybrid coyote. Mm-hmm. We have them up here like hybrid wolf coyotes, but they're just a tiny bit bigger than wolves. But this was shot because he thought it was a coyote, and then he's just like, no, this is way too big to be coyote. So let's get it tested for the DEC, which was nice by him because usually they're just like, yeah, let's just take this to the house.
Were they able to track it back to like a Western pack? I know that they have like for the Yellowstone packs, they have pretty good DNA on the different packs and things like that. Were they able to? Did they put any details in the article about where they think it came from?
Not yet. This was just confirmed like 2 days ago. So I'm guessing, it might be, of course, from like northern Canada and came down through the tundra up top through like Vermont and stuff like that. Cause I hear some wolves are up in Vermont, but we haven't gotten them down here in the Adirondacks or Catskills. So this is brand new to us. This is crazy stuff. Especially, with all of our farmlands up here. Like this is like where I live, it's nothing but farmlands and, it's just some crazy stuff. We have a wolf sanctuary up here. So I couldn't think it got out of that. We have also crazy sightings of mountain lions, which everybody says all the time.
Mm-hmm. So how big was this wolf?
I haven't confirmed the size of it yet. They just said it was tested positive for the DNA. So it's pretty crazy.
Gotcha.
Interesting. I wonder, I know the whole thing in New Hampshire, every time I have ever dug into the whole wolf situation, and there's been I think in 2019, there was wolf sightings near Sunapee, and I know in Connecticut, there was a wolf that was killed 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago on the road, and there's definitely been some other sightings around upstate New York, and obviously your example. But my understanding is that if they did identify that there was persistent wolves in the Northeast, it would activate some kind of protocol that Fish and Game and Wildlife has to basically get the message out to hunters, and they have to understand what their what their habitat would be, and then decide whether or not they would want to sort of capture and relocate them out of the area or not. So it's a whole big logistical thing that those cost a lot of money. So a lot of the conspiracy theorist people are they know there's wolves, but they don't want to test it because it's going to cost them too much money to deal with.
Yeah, that's the whole mountain lion scene up here.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Everyone gets all paranoid about it, and they put their expert hats on. But I don't know. I feel like if there was really a decent population of mountain lions, you'd see some evidence pretty quickly. I think every once in a while one stumbles out here, but that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then 2 episodes ago, I had a guy on here who does mountain lion kind of like, I wouldn't say conspiracy theories, but like looks into the possibilities of mountain lions being in the Northeast. It was pretty cool. I told Stomp about that one time, right?
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I've been watching too much Netflix. I got to get up on my podcast.
Yeah, right. So usually I do a Catskill Mountains history, but I don't have anything this week. I've been freaking crazy rushing around. But I heard you guys have a mountain in New Hampshire called Guyot.
We do. Yep, we do.
Yes.
We do. So he is a famous guy in the Catskills that actually did our map for the Catskills, our first official map of the Catskills. Andrew Henry Guyot. So pretty cool stuff that he named all the peaks and stuff like that. And he also wanted him to name a peak after himself. And he says that is very selfish. I don't want a peak named after myself.
That's great.
And he goes up in New Hampshire and he gets a peak named after him.
Yeah. And I don't know if they named it after him in to honor him or if he named it himself. Do you know Stomp?
I have no idea. No.
Yeah.
But he's legendary.
Yeah. And Sasha, I've told this story before on one episode, but the interesting thing about Guyot is he did the original he did one of the original White Mountain maps, and he was one of the people that really was responsible for sort of sticking the names on many of the peaks in the White Mountains, and it sounds like he did the same in the Catskills. And he was sort of the first map maker to identify that there was not just a localized set of mountain ranges, but that the what we now know as the Appalachian mountain chain stretched down from Georgia all the way up to the Northeast. So when he made the original maps, Guyot had to make a decision on what to call the larger mountain range. And his choices were to use Allegheny or to use Appalachian. And originally he had chosen to select Allegheny to describe the entire mountain range. But I don't know exactly what the details are, but somebody got to him and they decided that at the last minute that they were going to actually label the entire range Appalachian. And that's how, so it could be, depending on the flip of a coin with Guyot building that map, we could have very well been talking about the Allegheny Trail instead of the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting. So it's basically just sort of pick your names back then.
Yeah. And I was looking up, the past couple episodes, I've been looking up stuff about him. And the funny thing is he named almost all the Catskill Mountain peaks. And like you said, he kept those names on those peaks. But the thing is, like, I think 10 years later or something like that, USGS came out and named all those peaks and didn't give him credit for it.
Yeah, interesting. And I think, too, the spellings were off quite a bit in some of the early maps that he made compared to what they ended up landing on spellings. I think when the U.S. Geographical Society got involved, like they tweaked things. They tweaked things a little bit.
Yeah, and that was the weird thing. If you look up anything online, it barely says anything about him naming the Catskill maps. But if you look up stuff in books of Catskill Mountain history and stuff like that, that he is responsible for a lot of, or for almost all the names of the Catskill peaks. It's really crazy. It's really cool stuff. And then until recently, I didn't know that there was a mountain in New Hampshire named after him. It's pretty cool.
It's a beautiful peak.
Yeah.
Open Summit?
It's weird.
Open Summit,
is.
Yeah.
It's hard to call it a peak. It doesn't seem like a mountain. I mean, it's so weird. It's very flattish. Nondescript. You're just walking over the surface of the moon for a while, then you're off of it. It's a neat place. It's probably one of my favorite places. I compare it to another neat spot where Mike has been recently, Mount Height. It's just these off the radar locations that are just so beautiful and very unique. Mount Guyot is on sort of the the eastern side of the Pemi Loop or the Pemi Wilderness. And for whatever reason, maybe it's the flatness of the top. It gets blasted by wind. Most times when you're traversing over that, it is a challenge. It's well marked. I mean, the cairns are huge, but it's just such a stunning and, it's unique. It stands out from other types of summits or mountain peaks. Let's just put it that way.
Speaking of the Pemi, I'll be up there in June. Just to let you know, guys, I'm doing the Pemi. Stomp, I'm actually doing it, I think, with the president of your search and rescue team.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Keep me posted.
A guide is he's guiding people up that are first responders. So, I mean, I could handle it myself, but, if he's taking us up and stuff like that, we get, what's one of the huts up there?
There's Greenleaf, and then Galehead, and then Zealand. So there's a couple of them.
Okay, I forgot which one we're going to be staying at, but we're going to be staying at one of the huts for the loop.
Okay, and you're going in June?
Yeah.
You going to bring your bug spray?
Shit! Damn it! Way to make me not want to do this now.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Are you doing a full Pemi loop?
Yeah.
Oh, you are. Okay.
Yeah, we're going. Well, I think it's 2 days.
2 days. Okay.
That sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good. I mean, that's what I usually. That's what I did 2 nights, and then out on the third day.
Interesting. So we'll have to hustle. Interesting. Well, cool.
Awesome.
All right. Also, one last question. Do you guys go to the southern New Hampshire a lot? Sometimes, at least.
Sure.
So, Cardigan Mountain. Have you been there?
Yes.
It's a phenomenal place.
You've been there?
I haven't heard. Yeah, that was, I went up to New Hampshire in I think it was 2021. And that was the first mountain we climbed in New Hampshire. And that was a fantastic climb.
Yeah, it's another open-faced, rocky top, little tower top. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous hike. We went up, we did that. I did that with my daughter and my friend and his daughter, and I think we went up via Fire Screw and then over to the main summit and then down the Holt Trail, I believe. So, yeah, awesome hike. I got to get back out there.
Yeah, that place was definitely had. The funny thing is, I took a great picture of someone coming down. It was a woman, a guy, and she was skirting down on her butt because she didn't think the granite would hold her up.
Yeah.
And it was my wife was on her way up, and she's just this is not going to work. This is not going to happen. I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. Trust me. I'm pretty sure thousands of people go up here all the time. It's fine.
Yeah. And Stomp, matter of fact, we have some unfinished business down in that area because we talked last year. We need to get back down there and do that entirety of the Mowgli Trail out to the lakes region and then reconnect out to Cardigan. So we got to do that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That hike is phenomenal, dude. And it's it's pretty easy. Actually, I forgot to show you this picture. On the way down from that hike, I met a guy that was climbing the 48 with his RV car.
Really?
Really.
I haven't heard of that guy.
I will have to send you the picture. I was just we were coming up and he's sitting at one of the ledges and I'm just, not one of the ledges, but one of the rock areas. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, this guy's not moving. What is he doing? And then I see him controlling something. And I'm just interesting. So we move a little bit further down and he's got one of those RVs kind of going up the rock face and then going like that. And I'm just
that is insane.
Yeah, and Cardigan's a great mountain for that. Monadnock would be another one because it's just endless amounts of open slab that you could cruise around on in your RV. So
yeah. And the funny thing, he was at the base of it too. So I'm just dude, it's going to take you at least 3 hours to get up at least to the granite spot. Just sitting there trying every spot what's available. Oh, I got up this here. But I'll have to send you that picture. It was pretty crazy.
That's really funny.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's finally get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Mike and Stomp from Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. These Guys, so sorry to say, well, actually, I'm proud to say are influences of mine to start this podcast in the Catskills. They started a podcast up in New Hampshire, and they have exceeded very well of that by far. They have done a great job. They have done a great job of spreading people out through New Hampshire and giving people awareness of certain different programs in New Hampshire and responsibilities and hiking safeties in New Hampshire. And not saying that I'm very proud, but I'm also proud to have them on the East Coast and to have them over here to help out with what's going on with our craziness in the East Coast. So welcome to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is awesome.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So why don't you guys give a quick background about yourself? Let's start off with Mike. Mike, a little background.
I am Mike, and I guess background for me is I've been hiking for, Stomp, when we met, probably, what was it, like 2010 or something like that?
Right.
I would say I probably got into hiking around like 2012. And prior to that, I've always been a runner. So I was a wrestler in high school, and I did track, and always ran through my entire life. And I took probably maybe about 5 or 6 years off of running when I started my family and my career, and got back into it. I just talked about how I was a little bit heavy, lost a lot of weight, got into sort of somewhat competitive running, kind of age group stuff. And then through that, I ended up getting involved I put in for the Mount Washington Road Race. I did that 1 year, met Stomp through that, and then that sort of piqued my interest with my kids were getting a little bit older. Me and my wife were taking them around to hike around waterfalls and smaller things in New Hampshire. And then, one day I just decided that I was going to climb Mount Washington. I went up solo. I went up Glen Boulder Trail and then cut across Davis Path up to Mount Washington and down the Tuckerman Ravine Trail, and absolutely fell in love with New Hampshire and the mountains. And since then, I've basically created a monster. So less running and now more
Nice.
hiking for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Stomp, how about you, sir?
Oh my goodness. I've been hiking predominantly since 13, maybe 13. I was huge into rock collecting, and my folks dragged me up Mount Chicora one day, and I was miserable, just complaining the whole way, but I was at least collecting rocks. And I think I started my 48 when I was in my late teens, early 20s. But I was so busy with just school, different degrees and this and that. And I was a member of a local band in the North Shore, which was like 10 years of my life doing audio production and performance and stuff like that. So I sort of lost touch with the mountains. Then I got married and, lost the mountains for another decade plus. And, I started running out of the blue, mid 2000s, I suppose. It was a really neat thing to experience. And, that was when like Born to Run came out and all that business, I believe. And, it was super inspiring. And that's when I met Mike. It's really funny thinking about that, Mike. Just the odds of meeting somebody through an event like that. It's really cool just to see where you and I stand now with all this crazy stuff going on. But so I got back into hiking with my wife, Mrs. Stomp, and we have a whole episode about it where she tackled the 48 in under 2 years. I mean, she got the hiking bug like you wouldn't believe. And at that point, I was maybe halfway through the list. So she and I finished together within the 2 year period that she had started. And now I'm back at it again. For the most part, I've had some orthopedic issues. So hiking is my mainstay for physical health and activity. And the podcast thing is sort of neat as well, because I've been involved with audio and engineering and production for so many years, like literally like 30 years. So just this full circle experience I'm going through here is just a blessing. I'm just so happy and just content doing all this fun stuff and making this podcast work. And every week it's a challenge, but it's great. It's really neat.
Nice. So you guys, when you guys met, was it love at first sight?
can't
Stinky socks at first sight.
Yeah, I mean, it was very transactional. Like, it was basically like we both got into the Mount Washington road race, and back then there wasn't social media. I don't think it was message boards. So I just posted and said ID, because the way the Mount Washington road race works is that people can go up and drive you down, but you have to have 3 runners' tickets for one car to go up. So you can't just say to your family, like, oh, drive up and then drive me down. Logistically, they require you to take 3 runners down. So I was like, I said to my wife, like, do you want to go up? She was like, I'm not interested in driving up. So I needed to find somebody that I could give my ticket to and would take my gear up so that I had like warmer clothes to change into. So that's where I posted something on the message board, and that's when Stomp replied. And then it was very much like, cool, here's my email. And I think we probably just emailed back and forth, and I gave my phone number. I don't even know if texting was a thing back then. I don't even remember. I think it was just like phone calls.
So.
When was this, do you think?
This was like 2009, maybe 2010.
Oh yeah, I have.
So it was probably like forum stuff, like just internet forums.
Late 2000s, yeah, for sure, absolutely forum stuff. Yeah, my earliest T-shirt, I still have it. It's crazy.
Yeah, he still wears that same early T-shirt that he got for the Mount Washington race and the hikes. But I remember, like, the only thing that I really remember about that day was I remember meeting you, and it was very transactional. Like, here's my stuff, and then Mrs. Stomp was there at the time, and I think you guys were dating. You weren't married at that point. And I just remember finding you at the end of the race, and then Mrs. Stomp driving us down there, and Ches was the other guy that was with us that we were friendly with. And I just remember Mrs. Stomp being like, I can't believe you guys did this. You're crazy. And then lo and behold, fast forward, like she becomes this super hiker. But that was really the only thing that stood out. But we stayed in touch, and mostly we stayed in touch about like, let's do the road race again. But then eventually, I had gotten into winter hiking, and then Stomp had reached out to me about winter hiking and said, oh, I've got this friend Jimmy, and that's how I met Jimmy Chaga. And then the rest was history. And then my connection with Stomp really opened up connecting with a bunch of hikers in New Hampshire, because he was in some social media groups. So by then, it was like 2-3 years later from the road race that we met that he had joined these like social media groups that had a bunch of hikers that we later became friends with.
So Stomp is the internet media guy?
He was, and then I think I took that role over.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I was like, wait a minute, no way. Stomp is like interesting. So it was love at first sight. You guys, awesome. So it's great. It's good to know.
It's destiny.
Glad your fans will know. No. By the way, Stomp, did you have add another drink? I thought we were gonna torture Mike with more drinks at every session.
I have a second on the roster here, but I've yet to crack it. So it's part of my Mount Washington training.
Honestly, Stosh, what's the drinking is not the issue. To me, it's like right now is where I would grab the bowl of pretzels or the bowl of Cheez-Its.
At the nachos.
You know what I mean? Like,
nice.
It's so hard right now. Like, I'm pivoting into like a diet and trying to lose a little bit of weight. And it's that like witching hour right before bed where I'm so used to just getting a bowl of food.
I could use something to eat. Let me eat a whole tub of ice cream.
Well, you know what I've been into is Cheez-Its lately. They have these Cheez-Its that are like, they're cheesier Cheez-Its. So they have like the Doritos powder on the Cheez-Its, and they're so good. So that's what's torturing me. The beer doesn't bother me.
That's what you got to get up in the high peaks and stuff like that. You got to get some cheesier Cheez-Its and just.
I know. I don't feel guilty when I'm hiking. I can bring that food along, but not tonight.
I'll do Mike's signature trick here. Ready? Here it goes. That's Mike's signature.
Oh, yes. I forgot to do that with my awestruck. Sorry. He does that. You do that really good. Every time that I hear that, I'm just like, man, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I just put it right under the microphone and it goes.
I'm jealous. So a big question I always have with my podcast is because down in we're more of a suburban area, Albany and New York City and crap like that. We get a lot of social media stuff. The mountain lions in the Northeast. What do you guys see up there? as adjacent to us, because we see a bobcat is running across the trail camera and people are like, mountain lion, instantly.
Yeah, I think it's calmed down a little bit. Like I said, I talked about earlier. I've dug into some of the communities around mountain lions, and you get the same thing. Like people immediately think a bobcat is a mountain lion. They don't know the difference in the tail lengths and things like that. But for the most part, it's been pretty quiet. Like I said, in 2019, there was some somewhat credible discussions and sightings around Sunapee, which is kind of near Cardigan, where you had talked about. But lately, I haven't really heard too much chatter. Every once in a while, it makes the news. But I think it's been pretty quiet when it comes to mountain lions lately.
Yeah, you never hear anything really. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the media is pretty quiet about it. Occasionally, there's a story about some cat that was seen. I can tell you anecdotally, just bushwhacking, I have seen smaller cat prints, but yeah, who knows? If it is, it's probably not a big issue.
Yeah, my big argument is that, thousands of signs. Did you just put the executive producer off of there?
Yeah, she just bit my hand because I'm not giving her attention.
Jesus. I was like, what the hell did you do that for? That's mean. Understandable. So with the whole mountain lion aspect up here, we have so many trail cameras. There's so many trail cameras, yet no trail camera has caught a mountain lion up in the Northeast. And I got to admit, there's way more hunters up here than there is out west or anything like that, right?
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my only discretion, is that people, will be like, "Ooh, I saw this mountain lion track," and I'm like, "Nah, that's not a mountain lion track. That's a bobcat track that is kind of melted and looking like a big thing." It's just odd. I have to ask that question all the time, because that's my big thing is mountain lions in the Northeast. Is a very hot topic, especially with the New York City and, west, like Orange County and stuff like that, and Albany.
Mm-hmm.
People see them running a bobcat or a small cat, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, that's a huge mountain lion." No, it's just a feral cat that's running across your yard.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
Interesting.
I think there is the conspiracy side of me says, I do think that there would be incentive to not publicize events or sightings of these cats. I do give that some credence, but you're right. Hunters have the information, but the second question is, if they have that information, would the media publicize it to the detriment of tourism? And I think that's a valid point. I don't know. It's just, who knows? Right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's a big topic. And two episodes, I had a guy who, but he did mountain lion sightings in the Northeast, and he also does Bigfoot stuff, which is
cool.
Very crazy. Small Town Monsters. There's like a TV show or something like that about him, about his whole group. So you guys should get him on there and talk about Bigfoot, because it's got to be something else.
That's great.
So also,
we recently covered that, but yeah, briefly.
Bigfoot,
about the
really
brown bears, mistaking Bigfoot for brown bear or vice versa. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. That'll be fun. So, like, my big question, I haven't heard this yet. So what have gotten you guys into starting this podcast? Starting sounds like a search and rescue podcast. Mike, I know you, by the way, we're a little into this. Mike, I know Mike from social media from a long time ago. We used to be some, Mike, should I say some kind of like internet trolls? Would I say?
I wouldn't say that. I would say, we were in some social media groups where we were more irreverent and less, I guess, we were pretty casual about things like that. But, for me, the start of how Sounds Like a Search and Rescue came about was based on sort of, I was really interested in the idea that people were going out and getting injured, and I was interested in what do I need to learn and what do I need to know to stay safe? But then over time, what I noticed is over social media, you would have these clusters of search and rescue incidents that would happen. And, you would inevitably have people that would say like, okay, well, two people have gotten really seriously injured. We have a big problem. And I would say like, well, do we really have a big problem, or is this just sort of like the normal course of like search and rescue? And I was trying to figure out like, okay, what's normal? Like, is it normal to have X number of incidents per year? And, what I started to do was to just start collecting the media details of search and rescue. And I just started adding them into a spreadsheet. So I had that interest, and my goal was kind of like, let me just see, like, if I can do this for a couple of years, then I can sort of figure out, like, okay, are there any interesting patterns? And then I can also say, like, okay, well, our search and rescue is really increasing, because that's what you would hear all the time is like, oh, search and rescue is out of control and it's increasing year over year. And I was sort of very interested in the data side of things. And then at the same time, me and Stomp would hike together and we'd be talking and we would say like, oh, well, I'd love to start a podcast. And I don't know if we specifically said like we want to start a search and rescue podcast. We were like, we need to start a hiking podcast because there's not that many hiking podcasts out there. So we were like, there's a niche. And Stomp, obviously, like, he's got the audio editing, audio engineering background. So I think, Stomp, we went hiking, then we went to the Woodstock restaurant, or the Woodpecker restaurant. We were talking about it, right?
Yeah, right. That was sort of the start of it, like, just putting the idea out there. And then we quickly put it to bed.
Yeah. No, I don't think we ever put it to bed. We just sort of said like, yeah, we're going to do it, and then ignored like,
well,
you
exactly.
would prompt
That's
me,
what
and
I
then
meant.
I would ignore you. Yeah. Like you would prompt me and be like, let's do it, and then I would ignore you, and then...
It took a long time.
Yeah, it took like 2 years, I think.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah. No kidding, right?
Yeah.
From concept to actual, execution, it took a long time. Oh, Daphne.
Yeah,
Oh, there's
boy.
Daphne.
Daphne's
Demon
gone.
cat.
So Mike, just to let you know, like from your old page, I followed you a lot. Like I love to see your year over year statistics, and I'd be, I'm not nowhere near the New Hampshire area, but I would just like, oh, Mike's posting, what the quarter times of search and rescue is up in New Hampshire, and it was very fascinating. So you knew the stuff that you were doing. You were very well at it. So this fits you perfectly.
Yeah, and that's what I would do is basically I had like this Facebook group, and that's where sort of like Stasha talked about sort of the trolling is like my philosophy with this Facebook group was that I was not going to moderate. I think I was a bit naive about this, and it was earlier in the days of social media, and I think my whole thing was I was like, I am not going to be, this is going to be informational, but I'm not going to be involved in moderating or deleting anybody's comments or anything like that. And I was just sort of like, people are grown adults, and if they don't get along or whatever, they can block themselves or they can block each other or whatever. And I think naively, I just sort of thought like, okay, well, you can have a social media platform that isn't moderated, and as long as you're clear with people that they're adults and they're responsible for their own actions, then generally it'll take care of itself. But what I found was that that's a ridiculous idea, and it's the dumbest idea that doesn't work at all. But so over time, I think when we decided to do the podcast, I think ultimately it was like right around when COVID hit, that Facebook group was getting like a lot of traction, a lot of activity, but it was also getting nasty. I think people were really sort of like, there was just too much online activity.
They were morons. I'll agree with you. They were morons. It was annoying.
Yeah. So ultimately, me and Stomp recorded the first couple of shows, and it went okay. I don't love those shows, but ultimately, we decided as things went along that we wanted to make sure that the show was informational, educational, and something that we could be proud of. So we shut that group down from the perspective that we really wanted to pivot to be more inclusive, more educational, and just more professional. So that's sort of, and I didn't need that stress anyway. So, the social media group, it was an interesting experiment, but it just didn't, it fizzled out.
I'll agree.
Yeah.
There were times, of course, that I used that. Of course, that was when I was immature. I've grown up, even though, I feel like I haven't, but I have from social media, and it got annoying. And I'll admit, someone would post a thing like after a 36 inches of snow fell. Do I need snowshoes on, Washington Mountain from going from Lion's Head? Yeah. And I'd be like, sounds like a search and rescue call is about to happen. But I grew away from that. And, your statistics with the Facebook group was fantastic. And I loved it. I loved seeing like, oh, wow, it's increased only 2 like search and rescues from the last year, which is pretty insane. And then sometimes it would increase 10 to 15, which was like really crazy, but then it would go back down. It was fluctuating so crazily. And you were great at that. It was phenomenal to see your stuff.
Yeah, and I got 4 years of data now, and it's been really interesting to see some of the patterns. And I think the most recent year when I took a look at it, like the things that stood out to me the most right now are that lower leg injuries continue to be probably around like 40% of the overall calls that are reported through the media. I don't get all the, and I'm not on search and rescue, just to be clear. I just simply collect news reports that come out. New Hampshire's really good about publishing all their media details, so you can get a lot of information. But about 40% are lower leg injuries. So I always tell people, like, I feel like a 10 essential should be a splint so that you can triage your lower leg injuries and hopefully self-rescue. We've seen a big decrease in issues around people not having headlamps. So I don't know if Fish and Game has gotten like the message out to people to make sure that they start early, bring a headlamp, whatever. And then there's also like some trends around like fatalities in the whites. Like there's a lot of like men, I think it's like of the 30 or so fatalities that have happened in the White Mountains over the last 4 years, like 27 have been men. And a lot of older men, a lot of medical issues. So I always tell people, I'm like, you should really, once you get to be 50, you should really be doing some, proactive cardiology scans just to make sure that you don't have a ticking time bomb that you're walking around with that you don't know about. So, it gives some interesting insights that you can actually take and apply practical solutions to hopefully keep people a little bit safe.
Yeah. And this is not just the White Mountains, and it's just all over hiking in general. That's a great set of advice, is to, get yourself checked out so you don't become that casualty up on top of a mountain just because, you're hiking and enjoying something you love. You might have a problem that you might need to be checked out. Mm-hmm. Good call. Stomp, what about you? What got you started into starting a podcast?
This guy in the upper right hand video screen, I guess.
Sorry,
pushed
Sean.
you on peer pressure.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like you said, we were just chatting about it, and it was right up my alley. And I've always been creative in that sense with audio, video, and productions. I produced bands for many years, and some of those projects were like one song would take literally 50 to 60 hours to produce and to fine tune and to revamp. And so I was like very familiar with the creative process. And I thought that would be fantastic because hiking was such a part of my life. So it was just a no brainer for me. Like, count me in. There was the early stages of trying to figure out, okay, what gear would I need? And, it was sort of funny. I sort of had the gear end of it, but Mike was burdened with the software, internet-based aspects of starting a podcast. And that still, to be honest with you, is mind-numbing to me, to think that there's like 3 web pages that we have to go to and to upload this and to sync this and that. It's like, I still can't figure that stuff out. So I really hand it to Mike on that end of it. Because I'm just not adept at that at all. But when it comes to sound and putting an edit together, like, that's right there. Like, yeah, I'm proud of what we've done so far, in terms of our content. Oh, Jesus, we're almost at 100 episodes. It's crazy.
No shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many downloads? How many listens?
Oh boy. Oh, like 176,000. 177,000 within 100 episodes. I think we're averaging like 5K a week or something like that, which is, I don't know. It's still pretty niche though. It's like, I still wait for the ceiling to hit us because Jesus, how many hikers are there out there that are hiking in the whites? So I'm just waiting for this moment where sort of plateaus, but it still continues to creep up a little bit gradually. But yeah,
Wow.
there's still progress. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. I mean, I've been listening to you guys since the beginning. Of course, you helped me start this podcast. Mike, you helped me since the beginning, which I thank you so greatly. But like, you know, just hearing you guys from the beginning to now, just how you've exploded is awesome for not only yourselves, but for the hiking community. It helps out, you know, the search and rescue to get awareness of, leave no trace, you know, the 10 essentials. Like you said, Mike, the splint should be in there. I agree with you. We should revise that stuff. So let's make our own 10 essential. Let's make the Northeast 10 essential list.
Yes.
Instead of the whole.
That's a cool idea.
The slasher could do that. Come on.
There's plenty of room in people's packs. Come on. Let's make it 100 essentials.
It's freaking what? It's a lightweight thing. That's what, like, not even a quarter of a pound.
When you hike with Stomp the size of his backpack, he could easily have 100 essentials.
Stomp, what's your base weight in your regular backpack?
Generally about 30 pounds, 30 to 40 pounds.
29.6 here, baby, without water or food.
Yeah. The winter pack is a little crazy, but, and again, that's the reason why my body's changed and for this race. So like, I can't even imagine dropping 30 pounds of body mass to accommodate a race. Like, yeah, it's like you carry weight
30
like
more
that.
pounds of.
It's, yeah, things change, but, yeah, I mean, the winter packs are brutal. And I think, I don't know, honestly, I think it's part of the reason why I'm having orthopedic issues. It's like I was cursed with this hip dysplasia, which is a bummer. And I discovered it in my 40s. And before I discovered it, I was heavy packing with literal 60-pound dumbbells in my pack. And I just exacerbated the whole situation. So, I mean, that's a little bit of background regret there. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. I start off 29.6 pounds just for a regular day hike, just because I'm like, being on search and rescue and possibility of helping out someone else. Mike knows that too. He influences people, stating that you could carry an extra spikes for maybe somebody else that needs help on the trail. Like that person might not come down the trail or something like that. So I do the same thing, carry 2 spikes. My wife carried 2 spikes when we go in the winter. Bunch of different things to carry to help out people throughout the day.
Really noble. I mean, that's, I think we just had an event where we got to sort of do a Q&A at a local brewery with, Ty Gagney, who's, and just a really wonderful person and just amazing books. But, he stressed that, just having those things for people on trail. And I think I made a point at some point during the night that is the first line of attack, like on trail, to educate and also to help people. So that's great, but it does add weight.
Yeah, definitely. So, in the course of time, what are some of the difficulties you guys have with this podcast? Oh, it's a tough question, right?
Not really.
I
for
would
me.
say. Oh, go ahead, Stomp.
Go ahead, Mike. Take it. Mine's technical.
I would say just the audio screw ups. Like, there's been like a couple of episodes where like I forgot to hit record and we've run like the full episode. I think we did that with Rebecca one time and she was awesome to run it back with us. So I think that pure panic around audio issues, and then we've had some guests that have had audio issues as well. But like anytime we have that problem, like it's no problem to just kind of go back and ask them to do another run back at it. So that's probably the biggest difficulty we've had. What I thought was going to be the most difficult thing was finding like topics and guests for the show, which has turned out to not be that big of an issue. Like me and Stomp have a very organic type of thing and we've got Lynn that's helping us out now too. So we have a text message thing that goes back and forth, and he'll throw ideas to me and I'll throw ideas to him. And a lot of time it's like, I don't even want a response back. I just want to get the idea in the text message so that I have it for when we write the script. So we do that a lot. So, I mean, that's, otherwise it's, it's fun. It's a good Therapy. It's like my Thursday or my Tuesday, Wednesday night therapy. Basically, is to talk to Stomp for an hour or two.
Nice.
Yeah. I would say the technical issue on my end, because I'm usually the problem because I'm in the White Mountain, quote unquote, national forest, and I lose power all the time. I literally get emails now from all of the utilities saying, you're going to lose power tomorrow probably. So just be ready. How pathetic is that? It's like, oh my God, they set you up. Like, here's the expectation. You're going to lose power. And it's true. So that's a bit of a struggle. Regarding content, initially, Mike and I had a bolster of, say, several episodes that we could tap into. And then that seemed to just dwindle down to nothing. And now that let me back up a bit. I think maybe halfway through this 100 episodes, I think we sort of locked in a format that complements having guests or just having it be him and I talking about the hills and our hikes. And I think when we're in a pinch for content, we can always fall back on just him and I talking about our adventures out there. And honestly, I think that's what people want to hear the most. And for me personally, me just yapping with Mike for 2 hours a week is great. It's like, it comes natural and it's fun. And, but regarding guests and things like that, now we're overloaded with topics, which is unbelievable. It just never stops, building up. There's a queue of topics that we can fall back on. So it's pretty amazing. So I noticed that you sort of follow the same format, and I think that's fantastic. I think this is a format that works for these types of podcasts for sure. And maybe there's room for other topics and other crazy things like, pop culture or whatever. But yeah, I think we're all on the right track.
Yeah. And you guys, I'm very jealous of your organization and your duo. Like, it sucks to, somebody might drop out of a week and you're like, oh crap, what are we going to come up with? But that's a question. You guys can talk back and forth about your previous hikes and your experience in the White Mountains and stuff like that. But have you ever had to, like Stomp, you had your wife that one time, but have you ever had to talk by yourself? It's really horrible.
Yeah, no, I've never done that. I've had like times where like Stomp couldn't make it, and we, like Rebecca, who's been on the show a bunch of times, like helps out. The tricky part, I think, is getting to know each other's timing. Like me and Stomp know each other's timing really well, so we don't step on each other as much, and that's always the sort of the tricky part. But I don't know, doing a solo, like Stomp, you've done some solo like intros to segments and things like that, but not a whole show by yourself.
Right. No, I can only imagine, Stash. I mean, that's phenomenal. It
sucks.
Like
it sucks so bad.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but I mean, you're doing a great job at it. I wouldn't knock yourself at all.
Well, luckily I've only had like 3 solo, opportunities, but I'm trying to find, luckily I got booked until May. So that's good just to have guests, but doing it solo and to listen to yourself record instead of like I'm with you, Stomp. I've been into music since I was a young kid. And, hearing yourself record, you second guess yourself all the time. No, that wasn't good enough. Let's do it again.
Sure.
So doing this, makes you second guess yourself every freaking time. You're just like, that didn't sound good. And 40 minutes of that it just sucks. Well, but I'm very jealous of your guys' charisma. You guys have a great charisma. Holy crap. It's awesome.
That's cool. Thanks. I appreciate it. I say it pretty frequently. It's like, I think both of us are in a bubble. It's like when we go out to an event or something and there's 150, 200 people waiting to hear what me and Mike have to say about stuff. It's sort of overwhelming, but, yeah. Hey, whatever. We'll take it. And, I guess this is something I've wanted to say for a long time, but, I'm overwhelmed by the donations and the support too. Honestly, it's like everything we get for monetary donation, Buy Me a Coffee is a great platform. We just put it right back in. It's like, we're not making any money on this. We're just doing it for the passion, and we appreciate the support and everything else. And, we hope to keep at it and just making interesting, funny content. And I'm sure you're going to get there too, Stosh. I mean, your content's fantastic. So just keep at it. I was going to say, it's like you should, at this point, you can probably ask ChatGPT to write up a co-host script and then sample your voice and have a second Stosh. So it'd be Stosh and Stosh talking about the Catskills. I mean,
well, just to let you know, I did today while at work, I did a GPT of, I think I said, tell me a story of a post-holing incident that caused somebody to get killed.
Wow.
And like, it seriously took like 5-6 minutes for it to develop. And it was cool. Hilarious. The whole thing of someone hiking up and then breaking their ankle in, the mountains. And then all of a sudden the search and rescue volunteers couldn't get to there because the post holes were 7 feet deep. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. So like this whole chat GPT is absolutely fantastic. And I was just like, this is some crazy content. So
that's awesome.
But yeah, I will look into that. Definitely more ChatGPT for me and just have someone on the side doing that stuff.
Yeah.
So
a deep fake Stosh.
Hey, you guys, speaking of ChatGPT, Stomp, I was going to hold this the next episode, but Stosh, I'll give you this teaser. I've been using ChatGPT to collect hiking related dad jokes, Stomp.
Shit.
So why don't mountains ever get cold?
Oh, why?
Because they always wear their peak performance fleece.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, that's
What's wrong
ChatGPT,
with
not me.
computers? That's so bad.
This is scary. This is very scary. I'm not
there's
liking
literally a disconnect between AI and humanity. It's so obvious. It's crazy.
You know,
Give me
it's
some
funny.
more. You get some more.
A lot of people on my podcast. Hopefully they know about your podcast because, like I said, this stuff is crazy. So hopefully they'll know your platform and this whole dad joke, tick joke, and stuff like that.
Hey, what do you guys call a bear with no teeth?
What?
A gummy bear.
Jesus. And Mike, you're not even drinking alcohol. What the hell is going on here?
Yeah. So anyway,
that's
I love
awesome.
ChatGPT now because Stomp, we have endless amounts of tick jokes too that we can plug in.
You know,
Can you give me a tick joke?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Did somebody say this though? Why did the tick cross the road? To get to the other hide. That was horrible, Mike. I feel like an idiot.
Well, that's the point of them. So
Fantastic.
I don't like ChatGPT. I'm sick and tired of this place. This is gonna ruin my life. All right, this is gonna.
yeah. All right. We'll save the rest of the dad jokes for
So
future
this one.
episodes.
What did the mama tick say to the baby tick when he was going too slow?
I give
Tick
up.
tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Oh, jeez. It's so bad.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible. All right, let's get back out on topic. So the 48, but 48 peaks above 4,000 peaks in 4,000 feet in the New Hampshire, right?
Correct.
What got you into this?
So I was a runner for many years, and then once I started hiking, I did a lot of competitive races, and it took up a lot of time, a lot of energy. My wife was kind of not into it. She wanted to spend more time up north. Her parents have the house in Maine, and the kids, like, they kind of wanted to, we do a lot of hiking, running around, but she also wanted to kind of stick closer to the pond that we're on there. So I started getting into hiking on my own, and it worked out perfect because I would be like an hour away from most of the mountains. And then once I started getting into it, I found out about the 4,000 footer list. And from there, I was like, it fit in well with me. I like to plan things. I like to have a challenge, and, it was really perfect for me. So I think I also met a bunch of hikers, and they all completed the list, and I looked up to them, and I was like, I want to be like them. I want to be on the same level as them because I respect how much they know that I don't know. So that's sort of what got me into it. And I think it ended up being, I think I really started for real in like 2014 or so. And by 2020, I think I had finished up 47 of the 48. And from there, there's a couple of other lists. And I decided I wasn't going to finish the 48s until I finished the 52 with the view list, which is another list that we have, which is like basically 52 peaks that are below 4,000 feet that have really good views. So the idea is that you do 100 summits if you do the 48 and the 52. And then there's another list called the Terrifying 25, which is the most challenging trails in the White Mountains. So then I was like, well, I'll finish that list too, and I'll get to the end of each of those lists so that I'm at the point where I only have one hike left to finish all three lists. And I was able to string a single hike together to finish all three lists in one like 20-mile hike that Stomp joined me on. So that's sort of like the journey that I went on to learn about the mountains. And I think through the lists, you really get to know, I think the 48s, you get to know the personality of the White Mountains and sort of the main peaks that everyone's familiar with. With the 52 with the views, you get to know where the spots are where you can avoid crowds, and you really get to know the wider New Hampshire region as far as mountaineering or hiking goes. And then with the Terrifying 25, you really get to know, the most you really get to challenge yourself, and you get to the most difficult parts of the Whites. So that's sort of been my journey. And now it's like, I'm pursuing the winter 4,000 footers, but my daughter's pursuing her list. I'll hike with Stomp. My friend Tom was finishing up his list, so I hiked with him a lot for peaks. So, whoever wants to go anywhere, I'm down for it now.
Nice. Stomp, your turn, buddy.
Oh my goodness. Well, as I had mentioned, I started when I was 13, but I really didn't become serious into hiking until the 90s. I was preoccupied with being in a band and just doing the whole musician thing and trying to get this band signed and this and that. And I would hit mountains intermittently here and there. But that's when I discovered the 48 in particular. But listening to Mike talk about this has been literally a 30-year journey to finish the 48. Looking back on it, it's like, wow. So when I was back in the 90s, I was in the band and I got married and had children, and hiking totally disappeared. And what I was thinking about while Mike was talking was, it wasn't until my daughters actually agreed to let us take them up Mount Washington for an overnight at not Lake of the Clouds Hut, that sort of rekindled my interest in hiking again. And boy, that's a story unto itself. But then several years later, got busy again. And then Mrs. Stomp and I think we talked about this pretty openly. We're having some marital troubles, and we were at an inn in Jackson, New Hampshire. And I said, hey, do you want to hike up a small little hike? And it was Glen Boulder, which is like a mile up. And it's like a sub peak of Mount Washington. And that's when she got the bug. And the rest is history. So yeah, like 2 years later, I finished my 48 list. And yeah, it's a long story though. It's like literally decades for me finishing it. And since then I've fallen out of the whole list drive. I mean, I've sort of put my toes in the water for the 52 with a view and the Terrifying 25. The one that interests me the most, and it's because of my bushwhacking interest, is just the 500 highest of New Hampshire. So I'm plucking away at those. I think I'm like around 133 out of 500. And honestly, it's like one of those lists I do not anticipate finishing, because that's pretty overwhelming. It took me 30 years to do 48. Like, how the hell am I going to do 500?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, it's the amazing thing is the passion for your mountains.
Yeah.
Just goes beyond what you think it could be. Once again, Mike, you said, the influencers, like the people that you met on the trail, and one of those hikes, you might see someone who's older, and it's just, it sounds weird, but wise. And you're just like, wow, I want to be like this person. I want to know what these peaks are, or, what this once was. Like, I hiked with a dude when I was a little bit younger, that just showed me everything of the trail, about all the trails. And I'm just like, wow, this dude is fascinating. I want to be just like him when I get older. And I don't know if that's, the way you felt, you met some older guy that was just telling you anything and everything about the trails and everything about his life. And you're just like, damn, this is a damn good life that he's living.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of sort of acquaintances that I met over social media, and I would meet people on trail as well. And I think one of the lessons I put together I remember when I finished like the big lists, my big reflection was that if you do it right, you would, instead of bagging peaks, you have this concept of bagging friends. So you pick up new friends along the way. And I think, I give Stomp a lot of credit for that, because I think for me, I'm probably more, believe it or not, even though I probably have a big mouth, I am sort of more of an, solo hiker, introvert. I definitely, I'll say hi to people. And more recently, I've opened up to sort of, starting to make some new friends. Like I met Steve this winter, and I've started hiking with, Jake and Camilla and Lance. So I met a whole bunch of friends this winter. Part of it's by necessity, because with winter hiking, like it's just getting to the point where, from a safety perspective, I can't be going out in these wild hikes solo, but also it is nice to sort of share the experience with people. And, for years I hiked solo, and now I see I hike with my daughter and I see to teach her things, but just to experience it with new friends. And as I'm getting older too, I'm sort of feeling like my kids are starting to get older and they're not going to need us as much. So having some new friends as I get into my next phase of life, I guess, is fun. But yeah, I think hiking is a great way to meet people. Matter of fact, I just got done doing a segment of an episode that's going to probably come out in the next couple of weeks on Slasher. That's all about a story about two guys that met each other on Mount Major randomly and developed a relationship, and they ended up, hiking the single season 4,000 footer winter list this year. So I kind of went through that and talked to them about their experiences. So when you're out there hiking, take a chance, say hi to someone. You never know, you might meet your next best friend for the rest of your life. Who knows?
So true.
It's very positive.
Yeah.
That's a great. So with you guys being experienced 48ers, any suggestions for beginners? I haven't done a 48er yet. What would you, I'm of course experienced with hiking, but what would you have suggestions for 40 people pursuing the 48?
I always say get the books, get the White Mountain Guide, make sure that you read that, get your maps, do some digging on social media, do some digging on the websites like the AMC 4,000 footer list, gather some basic websites. Like I always tell people, like the New England Trail Conditions is a website where you can look at trail information. Sectionhiker.com, Philip Warner does a great job with gear advice. And then I would say, if you're looking to network and you're worried about friends, there's the Hiking Buddies group that we've talked to them on the show a bunch of times so that you can get to know people. And then, just get out there and experience it. You do a little bit of homework. Mount Pierce is considered an easier first hike. You can do hikes like Mount Tom or I don't know, Stomp. What are some other easy 4,000 footers? I always just say Pierce, Jackson's
Tecumseh.
Tecumseh. Yeah, that's my thing. It's start with the lower elevations, regardless of the season you're in. Start with lower. Don't bite off a 5,000 footer or 6,000. Just start lower. Start modest. Start safer. And you'll learn the tricks of the trade pretty quick if you start low and just build up slowly.
one thing that I tell a lot of people is that it sounds bad, but don't go cheap. Like a lot of the stuff in hiking, you go cheap and you'll lose out. Like spikes, stuff like that. You get Yaks tracks, or go with the hill sounds, go with the Catulas at first. Snowshoes, stuff like that. Like, I know I saw Walmart with some actually pretty decent snowshoes with crampons, which was actually like, I was flabbergasted with. So spend the money on snowshoes. You might use them one time and not like them, but you might use them one time and then love the heck out of them and use them every time. That's a big, question in the hiking world is gear. What should I spend? And, what's your limit also, It's a big question, a big controversy too, as well in the hiking.
What really, when it comes to gear and spending the money where it counts, headlamps. You can't get a decent headlamp at some of these, lower priced stores. I think it's better to go with a more expensive headlamp with a name and a reputation and like flawless 5 out of 5 stars for reviews when it comes to that type of thing. Snowshoes for sure. You don't want to be up there with a broken snowshoe and tie wrapping your foot down to the metal tube just so you can get down to safety. So when it comes to that stuff, absolutely.
Yeah. And when it comes to winter hiking in general, and we've done a couple of shows about sort of intro to winter hiking, is if you can get yourself a mentor or somebody that's experienced, or you can leverage these meetup groups. And again, I don't know what you have in the Catskills, but for us, we have the Hiking Buddies group that you can network and you can join in. And for the most part, I'd say like 99% of the time, people have a positive experience. And a lot of times people will end up sort of making friends through these groups and then going off and hiking together and, having lifelong friendships. But I think the more that you can get personal advice from people, that's the best way to do it, because once you validate from somebody that and you trust that has been there and done that, then, your self-doubts go away because you've got somebody that knows what they're doing and they've validated it. So the risk of you making a mistake in a gear purchase or not having the right clothes, it's lessened quite a bit, and the anxiety of not knowing goes away when you have somebody that you can bounce questions off of.
Correct.
Yeah, well said.
Perfect.
Yeah. If you have
Perfectly
questions,
stated.
message our Instagram account. Stomp loves to respond.
He does. You know what? That's phenomenal. I was just like, Mike's going to respond to all these, but it's always Stomp.
I'm just going to set up a redirect to Stosh. Like, ask Stosh.
Oh, I would love to, man. I barely get any messages. You guys probably get everything.
Please.
No, nobody like, so the Catskills is somewhat the same way. Of course, we don't have the great elevation gains that you guys, we don't have above tree line, but we do have that question of, what should we use right now? Is snowshoes good enough, or is spikes good enough? It's going to always be that way. And, doing this podcast, just like you guys, influences people to do the right thing, to 36 inches of snow. You're not going to use spikes to go up, a 2,000 foot mountain, a 2,000 gain mountain. You're going to be using snowshoes, of course, and to spend that money on MSRs or tubs or something like that, it'll be worth it. Those things will last almost forever. And if they break, they'll replace it. Like I've never had somebody say that they've used an MSR snowshoe and, the webbing broke or something like that they haven't replaced it for free.
True. Yep,
so
true.
People just need to get that in their head that the gears are worth it. It's definitely worth it. Absolutely ridiculous. My freaking dogs are going crazy.
Oh boy, there's a wolf outside.
Well done, Mike. Well done. Well
Right.
done. All right. So, as I'm back. So, Mike, have you had any close calls? You've done the 52 with a view. You're getting close to Terrifying 25, stuff like that. Have you ever had any close calls on the trail?
So I've talked about this a couple of times. We had a situation where we did a winter overnight. I did it with some of the friends that I've hiked a lot with in the winter and done winter overnights previously. And one of our friends, we were hiking up Mount Carrigain and we had to break trail. It was a long day. There's a road walk that's like 2 miles that adds to the trail, maybe a little bit over 2 miles. And we had our friend experience hypothermia, so we did have to, there was a point in that situation where we had to make the decision to say, like, okay, is somebody going to start hiking out, or are we going to hike back up on the mountain to get cell connection to call for someone to get there? And we were having, pretty serious discussions about what to do. Luckily, we were able to heat some water up and some food, and our friend was able to recover from hypothermia. So that was a scary situation. Other than that, really the only other scary situations I've had is multiple times I've had ankle twists where I've sat there and said, like, okay, is this serious or is this just a tweak? And every time it's been a tweak. I've fallen at the bottom of Huntington Ravine and hurt my wrist pretty bad, but was able to just finish the hike up. But that's about it that I can remember.
Wow, that's some good times. Like the hypothermia stuff is crazy. It's very scary. These people could get out of control in a second. Could go sideways in a very short amount of time. So that's very crazy.
He was
stuff.
beyond sideways in a situation where we were seriously like unsure about survival. So it was pretty scary. But the nice thing is that like the lesson learned is the time it took us to heat the liquid up to get into him in order for him to start feeling a little bit better. The lesson for me was like, I don't go out in the winter unless I have a thermos of hot liquid sitting there. So that's like my 12th essential. So we talk about the split hot liquid in the winter conditions. And again, a lot of times I don't even drink it. It's just there in case I run into someone that's in trouble or I'm not feeling great, then, I can have that. But that was the big lesson is if you're winter hiking, bring that thermos, even though, it's going to carry an extra 2 pounds in your pack, but it could save a life.
Yeah, definitely. And what sucks is with me with the Catskills, I got to travel an hour and a half to get to some certain peak. So keeping that thermos warm, once you get up to the top, it's lukewarm, but it's still there to help you. But, keeping it like really warm kind of sucks. But, in that time, it probably, you could reheat it in, instead of, like 15 minutes, it could heat it in 5 minutes and that person will be saved from hypothermia.
Yeah. And I haven't had any issues with it getting cooling off. Like I have a nice vacuum thermos brand thermos that I use. And typically like I'll load that up at like, if I leave my house at 4:30 in the morning, I get on trail by 6:37. Even by noontime, it's still piping hot in that.
Oh, so nice.
I have a pretty nice thermos. It's heavy, but it does the job.
Send me the link to what that is.
Yeah,
because,
I will.
I have an old Stanley thing, so it's probably like 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, you got to use it's like a vacuum. It's got 2 screw-ons, so I'll send you the details.
Sweet, thank you. Stomp, what about you? Any close calls while on the trails?
Oh my God, too many. That's a long part of my story. I think when I was, back in the 90s and early 2000s, I was out there doing stupid long traverses and just going out there without, headlamps, just, in the vigor of youth, just the stupidity of youth, just ignorance, just doing things that you think you're, going to overcome. Even in the worst cases, I'll be fine. So yeah, I made a lot of stupid mistakes. One in particular, I won't give the location, but I did this long bushwhack in, wintry conditions with sort of like the thermal running pants on that I would use for running. And it was early spring, but yet there was still a ton of snow. When I got to the summit of this location, I opened my pack to put on my warm pants and my warm pants weren't in there. So I actually ended up having pretty significant muscle spasms, where I was sweating it thinking, man, I could be in big trouble right here. I was probably maybe half mile from a trailhead. I knew where I had to go, but my body was saying, you're not going anywhere. So it's just those stupid mistakes that you make that are huge lessons. And, looking back on it now, I just can't stress how important it is to be prepared and to have everything you need in there for a 24-hour sit down, wait, whatever it may be, but just be prepared for the worst. That's why I carry so much crap in my pack.
Yeah, you know, dude, I'm with you. I haven't had a close call on the trail, which is crazy. But, you know, we also don't have the open summits like you guys do. And that's, you know, once you get above tree line, I've been in the Canadian Rockies and stuff like that. It's a whole nother story. It's definitely a beast up there. But, you know, sometimes, like you said, I've had a listener on here come on and, you know, they were doing a hike, you know, that was like 12 miles long, and 9 miles in, they're like, it's getting dark. We're not going to make it to the next peak. We got to set up a shelter. And, you know, they did. They were prepared. They were, you know, packed the right things, and they survived, and they completed their through hike that they didn't expect would be a through hike. So carrying that extra shit, like you said, Mike, the 10 essentials, is going to become a 12 essentials. Now I think Slasher should start promoting that. And dude, that copyright that shit, as we know from the past.
Yeah, I
the
won't
past
get
couple
in
episodes
any
with me
trouble at all doing that.
File that paperwork, Stomp.
Yes.
See what I can do.
I was trying to bury the hatchet with that. I couldn't do it. So, damn. So Stomp, me and you bushwhackers alike. So what got you into bushwhacking?
That's a good question. I think the easiest answer to that is, you know, when I would be tackling the 48, my eye would wander and catch, you know, just cliff faces and slides and things that ended up not necessarily being on trail or local to a trail. So I think that's really it. And even things like, you know, driving north to a 48, 4,000 footer trailhead, I would notice things in the notch, Franconia notch, that ended up not being on trail, and I wanted to go see them. And I think that it's as easy as that. And once I started doing that, that's what really hooked me. Just the opportunities to see new places that may be difficult to get to, but would be a super payoff when you got there. So, and from there, you get hooked. It's a drug, because it's just, you know, it's a whole other, experience. You have to know how to read the topography, how to, you know, avoid obstacles that you may not see immediately, but they're a quarter mile away. And you over time, you know, they're there, like cliff faces or bogs or whatever. So it's a really neat experience. And, yeah, it's been awesome. And, you know, for me personally, I do like, to avoid people when I bushwhack, or when I hike in general. Sorry. So that was a big part of it as well. I love the solitude, which is harder to find on the more popular trails these days.
On any trail these days, actually, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, with you guys, you got a wide spread of trails and stuff like that. I don't know how many miles you got of trails, but a lot of people like to stick. Of course, a lot of people like to stick to the list. Yeah. But there's so much out there that's beyond the list, you know, with the 3,500, you know, there's the 420 grid. Of course, everybody does that. But, you know, the Catskills All Trail Challenge we have out here leads you to places that you wouldn't believe, that have old monuments of hotels that were built in the back in the 1800s. You know, you guys probably have that up there too as well. Like some crazy history stuff. Yeah. I mean, I remember your one of your podcasts was, one of your episodes was about, like historic trails, you know, that you could follow. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah. Abandoned, long forgotten trails. There's a ton.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Bushwhacking is one of my favorite, you know, with me being the plane crash guy. There's no plane crashes. There's very few that are on the trails, and going into that back country to find the middle of absolute nowhere, 9 miles off of trails, is just is solitude galore. Is just phenomenal. So, Mike, what is your favorite hike in the New Hampshire area?
I typically say the Baldface Circle, which is up in a section that's a little bit quieter. It's called Evans Notch. which is over in it like borders the western Maine, so it's pretty close to where my father-in-law's house is, so it's nice to get up into Evans Notch. And the nice thing about the Bald Faces is that it's like a significant amount of time above tree line. And again, it's remote, but it's got this cool rock scramble, and it's got these awesome views. And I like that. And then I would say the other place that I really actually like is the northern part of the Appalachian Trail in New Hampshire. So from like Rattle River as it crosses the street up to like Mount Success and Gentian Pond and that whole area heading up into Grafton Notch is really cool too. And again, it's like not as crowded, and it's just awesome views. And I think a lot of people sleep on that. I think a lot of people sleep on Evans Notch because it's kind of out of the way and they miss a ton of great hikes. And then I think a lot of people kind of miss that northern part of the Appalachian Trail just because they don't think of that in terms of like the core whites, because there's no 4,000 footers close by.
That's awesome. And I just like to say to bring people away from those 48ers and stuff like that, 35ers. That's why I'm doing this podcast, to get everybody away from the Catskills and go up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely places you can go where there's crowds, and we do the same thing. We'll tell people, like, here's where you can go to avoid crowds. Like, I think, there's like eight mountains that everyone goes to all the time, and if you can avoid those in New Hampshire, you can pretty much avoid crowds.
Yeah, there's definitely so much up there. Stomp, what about you, buddy?
Oh man, there's a sizable crowd of people that probably hate me for revealing the Tecumseh to Welch Dickey Grand Traverse, but I did that, and I take the heat for that. It's I'm drawn to these abandoned trails that are more herd path than trail, but they were originally trail. So the Grand Traverse is my number one favorite. It's about 6 miles, and it runs from Welch Dickey, which is a super, super popular 2,000, 3,000 foot trail, 2 peaks, and just runs along these beautiful narrow paths with lush greens, and you just can't beat it. It's amazing. That is my number one pick for sure. My second pick would be probably like Goose Eye, which is, I'll develop a whole other group of people that hate me for saying this, but Goose Eye is a great sample of the Mahoosic Range. So it sort of puts you in the middle of the heat, and it gives you a advantage of Maine and northern New Hampshire, just the border. The Mahoosic is incredible. And when you go to Goose Eye, you realize that it is a hidden secret, and people are taking care of it because it is very special.
Oh, it's amazing.
So, yeah, it's unbelievable. So yeah, those are my 2 faves. If third place, if I can have a third place, would be Algonquin Trail, which is right here in Waterville Valley, which runs off of Sandwich Notch Road to Sandwich Dome. Another, I don't want to say it's abandoned, but it's a quasi-abandoned trail because it's so rarely frequented. It's just hard to get to. It's a long car spot. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now, I've been to Welch Dickey, actually. I did that when I was back in New Hampshire. That was a phenomenal hike. Beautiful view.
It's amazing. Never gets old. It's incredible.
It's got a view of, if I'm correct, the Tri-Pyramids, right?
It does. It does, for sure.
Okay. Somewhat, yeah. I know my somewhat of New Hampshire. All right. Right.
Yeah, from certain areas you can see Franconia Notch, you can see Moosilauke. I mean, as you do the horseshoe counterclockwise, you can see pretty much most of the major parts of the Whites. You don't get a view of, say, Mount Washington, but what's neat about Welch Dickey is you get the feeling that you're on a higher elevation. That I think is the magic of Welch Dickey. And it's not. It's like a 2,500 foot to 3K journey. It's neat.
Yeah, it's definitely, I thought it was fun. We met some great people up there. They actually, 2 ladies told us to drive the kink, and we definitely drove it and went around in the Tesla, by the way. That was fine. Didn't catch on fire.
That's good. Oh boy.
So, any future plans for Slasher podcast?
I would talk to the inventor. What do you think, Mike?
Big
I
plan?
would say, we're going to continue to, and we've taken a little bit of a break on guests just because it's just logistically, we wanted to clean up some of the old episodes, and then logistically with guests, we want to make sure that we've got our recording down, and it's a lot on Stomp to do the edits for those. So I would say we're going to pick up a lot more guests. I would say that, we'll continue to focus on, hiking. I think we'll expand a little bit of history. There's a couple of unsolved mysteries that I really want to keep the focus on. Like last week, we did a little bit more of a deep dive on a missing hiker from 1983 that was never found. I want to keep going on that and make sure that I get the message out about Michael Miller, who's been missing, like I said, since 1983. And, I think that we'll probably have some additional surprises. But I think for us, like hiking, history, unsolved mysteries, cool guests, that'll be the focus.
Rock on. Sounds good.
Yeah, with a sprinkle of, say, short little reels and this and that. It would be nice to expand our reach. And when we say that, I think that means drawing in younger generations or people that may not be exposed to some of the video content platforms and this and that. So that's where Lynn Sweezy comes in, and she's helping out quite a bit with that. So more reels, shorter content, but to the point. And yeah, we'll see. Theater of the mind stuff. I really do appreciate when Mike and I just talk about a hike, or like for instance, last episode was Franconia Ridge. So we spent a good deal of time just talking about a trail system. I just think that's magical. And I think a lot of hikers can really just sit back and close their eyes and think about it. Or when I think many of our listeners drive to their trailheads and they listen to us and we're just talking about the trails, and they can just zone out and get through that drive to the trailhead with us, just yapping on about things. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, just more basic content, just talking about the mountains.
Yeah. I'm seriously jealous of your guys' charisma and stuff like that, that you have with the White Mountains. I'm definitely, I listen to you guys all the time, and it's a great time. It's one of I only listen to like two podcasts. I think it's you, and I listen to a Chernobyl podcast. Very different.
That broke up. So what I heard was I only listen to you and a Chernobyl podcast.
Yeah, right.
Did you say Chernobyl?
Yep.
Oh, really? Wow. Tell me about that. I need to know.
It's basically a documentary on Chernobyl, what happened, behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely deep dive into Chernobyl and what you didn't expect would happen, or what happened basically, and it's very crazy. I'll have to send you the link. It's just,
yeah, please do. Yeah, it's funny because my wife's a huge Cher fan, so I'm like, did he just say Cher or share?
Chernobyl. Nice. So Stomp, really quick, you're a physical therapist. Yeah. What are some of your suggestions to help out yourself on the trail? Like, let's say before or and after a hike.
Well, before, hiking is, if you haven't hiked, then you have to start small and easy. And, to avoid injury, I think having a strong body, a body that's used to different activities, cross training, mixing up your activities. People get in trouble if they just do one activity over and over and over. You can get stress injuries and things like that. So, certainly mixing up your activities, and again, starting small. If you're a new hiker, just don't try to tackle large ones. You're going to get injured. You're going to be sore. You're going to be dealing with strained ligaments and tendons. So just start small and build up easy. Nutrition's great. Post hike, that's where the flexibility comes in. If you're really suffering after a hike, if you're a new hiker, just gentle massage, ice, gentle stretching. That's the way to go. Pre-hike, I was thinking about this looking at your script earlier, and there's sort of like a back and forth about this in terms of whether to stretch before activity or not. And There are some studies out there that say that stretching when you're cold, when you haven't even started, stretching first before you even start moving is the way to go. And I sort of butt heads with that idea. And I think the way to start your hike is to just start going nice and slow and easy, warm up, do your hike, and then when you're done, stretch out fully. As I get older, I realize that flexibility and strength are key. But even more so flexibility as you get older. You just need that flexible muscle length to avoid injury. I don't know. This is a whole other episode, Stosh. Hope I answered your question, but
you guys need to do an episode on this because it's a big topic, like post injuries of just not saying overworking yourself, but kind of not stretching yourself, either beforehand or afterhand. You guys need to probably throw up on this and do an episode.
Yeah, I can throw up on that.
Nice. All right. So we're entering that's a freaking long ass one, 2 hours and 17 minutes. Jesus.
That's all good.
Yeah. So, I do a thing in the Catskills called post hike brews and bites. My friend Mary, made this suggestion. So when you're up in New Hampshire, what do you guys suggest to go to eat besides the place that you suggest every day on the podcast? The pizza place. And Reckless, of course.
Reckless, yeah, for sure. Oh, Mike, why don't you cover the eastern side of the state and I'll cover this side of the state, the western side.
Nice.
Yeah, I would say, in Conway, so like the eastern side's like kind of Conway, New Hampshire, North Conway. I always love the Moat Mountain Brewery, and they have great food there. It's a great place to go. But I'm a huge fan of Dairy Queen after my hikes. I love the Dairy Queen. There's one in Glen, and then there's one in North Conway. So either way, whether I sit down and I get like nice burger plate and a beer at Moat Mountain, or I go and get a giant Oreo cookie blizzard at Dairy Queen, either one doesn't. I could take either one.
Nice. Stomp, what about you, buddy?
Yeah, locally, if you're looking for a Mai Tai, Fugaki on Tenny Mountain Drive is the place to go. But honestly, the Common Man chain is not too bad. It's really decent. There are a couple that are more diner-esque that you can go in and get your Reuben or meatloaf or 24/7 breakfast. It's incredible. There's one on off of exit 23 as you're heading to Meredith. It's a diner that would blow your mind. So just the old classic diner food. It's so great. The Italian farmhouse, did I mention that? Yeah, that's one of that's Common Man. Yeah, Common. Yeah. It's so good.
Nice. All right. I'll tag these in the show notes, man, to get people when they go up there. So, Mike and Stomp, thank you for, joining me on the show. I really appreciate it. Taking your 2.5 hours out of your life to talk on my horrible show.
Oh, please.
Did you guys ever think that you would get this big to talk on my show?
Dude.
I'm honored. We're blowing up.
This is why you're the lead up to 100. You're killing it. So just hang in there and keep on doing what you're doing.
Hey, it's 69. I'm proud to have you guys in episode 69. That's just couldn't believe this happened.
Yep.
So, thank you guys. Thank you to the monthly supporters. Thank you to everyone who has donated. Thank you to everyone who's listened to both my podcast and Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. We really appreciate it. We hope to get the word out of, just general hiking, ideas and then the fun of hiking. So, Mike, Stomp, thank you guys for joining me on the show. Hope you have a great night.
You too, brother.
Hey guys, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking memes, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you just keep on living, man. Livin.
Wicked, 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 wicked.